You're listening to the B&H Photography Podcast. For over 40 years, B&H has been the professional source for photography, video, audio, and more. For your favorite gear, news, and reviews, visit us at bnh.com or download the B&H app to your iPhone or Android device. Now here's your host, Alan Weitz.
Greetings and welcome to the B&H Photography Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about building community and finding jobs in the worlds of photography and media. And to do that, we welcome journalist, editor, and photographer Polly Irungu. Polly works as an editor for WNYC here in town, and her photographs have been published in BuzzFeed, BBC News, CNN, Refinery29, and OK Player. But Polly is here with us as the founder of Black Women Photographers, which is a global community and online database of Black women and non-binary photographers. We also welcome photographer Dawn Banji. Dawn is a portrait photographer and artist based in Virginia, and through Black Women Photographers, she was hired for an assignment by the New York Times. We're going to be speaking with Dawn about her photography and how BWP has helped her find work and community. Welcome, Polly. Welcome, Dawn. And congratulations, Polly. Black Women Photographers is celebrating its first year anniversary this month.
Thank you so much for that intro.
Oh, hey, that's why they pay us the big bucks, okay? We do things right around here. Anyway, it's been a year, so let's talk about that.
It has truly been a year.
It has been. How have your thoughts and or perceptions concerning Black women photographers shifted course over the past year? Because this hasn't exactly been just another year.
Right. No, that's a great question. I mean, for me, I really didn't know what to expect. You know, everything that's happening is not what I had in mind. And it's just been amazing to watch it unfold. And it's happening, like you said, in the midst of this pandemic, in the midst of just crazy year. I don't have to unpack it for everyone listening. They already know. And so it really has been able to, one, for me at least personally, just give me some sense of joy, because I think it's so hard to find that joy in these times. And although it is work to keep it running, I mean, it has been really just a joyous experience for me.
It's funny. The word joy comes up a lot. My wife uses that, and that really means true happiness. People say I'm happy, but when the word joy comes into it, it's a whole different level. So it's good to hear that. Has the organization grown into something larger than you expected? I mean, how has it tracked? I mean, compared to what you had in mind and anticipated, and where you are today.
Yeah, I've been anticipating this anniversary for some time, and so I was looking at just like beginning tweets of like when I first started this journey, and I remember on June 3rd, of 2020, I tweeted, "I'm gonna make this a thing," and I did, and now it's like so much bigger than a thing, right? It's been one. I mean, for me, the first thing I wanted to do was just to help, form that community, because for me, I was longing a community personally, and then two, is the whole point is to help Black women photographers get hired as well, and so those were the two things. I mean, I really wasn't expecting just all the other things that have come with it. And even when I say like getting folks hired, it's like I didn't even think, okay, could someone get hired at the New York Times, or could Red Bull hire someone, or could this Netflix star hire someone? Like I never thought of all of those possibilities. I was just hoping, maybe some local folks, local outlets. I don't know, but it's been great to see it grow. One, just in size of the community, but two, also just like within the industry, it's like reaching across so many different areas, and soon I feel like will really become one of those go-to resources in the industry at large.
And when you say you felt like you were lacking a community at the time, and this was an attempt to start that, I mean, can you explain or maybe elaborate a little bit as to what that meant to you? I mean, was it about having other photographers to speak to? Was it about finding other professionals you can get advice from? What was it that you really were lacking, or feeling or felt that you were lacking at the time?
So at the time, okay, so I graduated from University of Oregon in 2017. And at the time, after I graduated, I applied for every photo internship at whatever job you can think of.
Mhm.
And just crickets, just, one rejection after another. And so I was feeling pretty defeated because now I'm like, okay, I'm doing what I enjoy. Like I enjoy social, I enjoy, writing as well. I'm able to do other skills, but, I really wanted to do more of my photography. And in 2018, I moved to New York for the job I currently have at WNYC. And it was like hard to navigate also, the photo world there because obviously there's so many, there's so much talent, there's so many photographers in New York. And so I was like, how do I even like find a community? How do I even make connections here with
Mm.
photo editors or people in general who are, can hire me? Like, how am I able to stand out in the sea of, just New York? And so for me, I was just feeling pretty defeated at the time because it's like I wanted to do more of my photography, but I just didn't know where, how. At the time, I was like, should I even do photography? Like, am I even a photographer? Like, and I graduated from a PWI, and so at the time, I also was like, the amount of photographers that I knew that looked like me were very was a very small number,
Mhm.
and so for me, I was just trying to find just more photographers personally that looked like me, Black women photographers. I was just trying to find them. And, when I was a student, I created this Twitter list called Black women photographers, just adding folks on my timeline that popped
Mm.
up, that served as inspiration. And that helped. And so for me, I was like, okay, I'm going to start reaching out to some of these folks on this list and see, how are they feeling? Like, are they having such a hard time navigating, this industry? Are they even, are they having a hard time getting hired and, access to opportunities? And so, because for me, it's like, okay, if I want to like quit this in this field, and it's like, I probably have a better foot up because, I did graduate from university, and I do, I could reach out to like alumni network or something. But if I'm feeling like this, I'm sure other photographers are feeling the same way. And so that kind of helped reaching out and hearing from them kind of also helped inform my approach of like what I could do with this, like how I should launch this, how I should be intentional with, this community I'm trying to create. But yeah, for me, it was just like, one, I didn't really have an immediate circle of photographer friends. And one, also like a circle based in New York. I did have some, again, some solace with the community I found at NABJ, which is the Association for Black Journalists. And within NABJ, they have a visual task force. And so I knew like, okay, I could turn to them if anything, but it was just like that immediate network and support. That is what I was missing, and the access to opportunities and being seen and hired. Like that was also what I was missing. So.
Hmm. And do the people that you reached out from your Twitter list, were they generally receptive? How did it grow in the first weeks, let's say?
Yeah. So I just, anyone who had their DMs open, I slid into them.
Okay.
And I just started, I said, okay, hey y'all, I'm Polly. I'm a photographer based in New York. And, I just said like, this is what I want to do. I want to build this directory, this global directory and this community. And, would you be interested? If so, I sent them an email with more information and a quick survey form to fill out. And that really just helped, have the first like a couple folks on on launch. I think I started it with like 100 photographers, just about with the launch who responded in time, and then afterwards, week by week, it's like growing, and so now there's over 600 photographers. Um, and it really is just amazing because now I'm like, oh my God, there's like a Black woman photographer in Berlin, Germany. I had no idea until she reached out, or just all these other places where you think like, no, there can't be, but yes, we really
And
are everywhere, and it really is amazing.
you said that you had a photographer from Germany. Is the organization open? I mean, how do you kind of put boundaries on who can join and who cannot, and how do you vet people and photographers, and what's that process like?
Yeah, so for me, I try to be, as inclusive as possible. So really anyone who identifies, um, as a Black woman or non-binary, are able to, join. They really just have to send me an email, and, I ask for a link to their work. I check it out. And then I send them this form that has a series of questions. basically things that, editors would probably want, like obviously like the basics, like name, email, location, maybe if you had any like kind of HEFAT or safety training, and then just of course your specialty and niche, and other questions that are more for me of just like, you know, community-based questions of like, what are you looking for in a community? How can this community support you? Just to get an idea of, where people's needs are,
Hmm.
because everyone is, so different in this community. Like there's a range, there's like a lot of emerging photographers, and then there's some who are like in the middle. Like I feel like myself, I'm in the middle. And then there's some who are more advanced. And there's some, who, have been doing photography longer than I'm alive. And so it's really just this wide range. And so for me, it's like, okay, everyone will have a different need, but how can I best support all these folks? And what someone needs here in the States, obviously, so can be so entirely different than what someone needs internationally. And then just like with that said, it's like when I look in the Slack group, because I created the Slack after one of the photographers suggested, another form of communication. And this photographer named Zoe Davis, she's based in Chicago. She's like, Polly, let's create a Slack. I'm like, okay, sure. I'm like, I was hesitant because it's like the last thing I need is another, app or platform to have a million notifications on.
Right.
But it's like, it's been such a great source of, just of communicating. And so even within our Slack group, there's like over 12 time zones. I'm like, oh my God. So how do I even like start programming events and be mindful of the different time zones and things like that? But
Right.
I mean, so anyways, back to your question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really anyone who wants to, and like I said, and who identifies can be a part of it. For me, I just verify, that they are who they are, and that they are a photographer. And of course, if they wear multiple hats, that's totally fine. But for me, I'm just focused on photographers. A lot of the folks in the community, they also do film, they also do directing. A lot of these folks are multi hyphenated. But for me, it's just like I feel like I can better support photographers at this time. And that's because, a lot of the, for me, it's like a lot of the gatekeeping is already out there. That's already happening. And the last thing I want to do is be another form of gatekeeping.
Right.
And, for me, I guess it's also just like, an honor system, trust system. It's like, okay, if you get contacted, I hope that you'd be, a great representative of, yourself and your work, but also of this community, right?
Don, can you speak to how you came across the group and how you joined and kind of your experience in the initial stages?
Yeah, of course. One of the biggest things, I was also looking for community. Last year, I had just graduated high school. So after graduating high school, I kind of was looking for a basis to grow my photography. And it was kind of um, in just a very simple search history on Google that I found Black women photographers because I got to the point where I wasn't seeing any, and I always had to search for Black women photographers, which is why I think this community is very, very empowering because it's a way to put Black women photographers out there where people don't have to look and go out of their way to find Black women photographers. So I simply just put in one night, I was looking into photographers and trying to find inspiration and resources. And I just searched up Black women photographers. And after going to like the second Google page, I found Black women photographers and filled out the form. And it was a very, I guess it was a very midnight thought because I was just trying to find inspiration. I just watched a Vivian Meyer documentary and felt very in my element. So that was how the entire thing came together. I went to a high school that was majority white. So that was where it was kind of very difficult for me to have that sense of community, especially within the art world.
Hmm. Now, obviously, Black women photographers comes up first in the Google search, and
Yeah.
obviously that's pretty important. Did Polly, was that a thought of yours when you were thinking about naming the group, or was it just something so direct that you needed to get that name out there? Or in the initial stages, were there those thoughts, or was it really I just want to get a group formed?
For me, it's like, I think it was just like, I just want to get a performer. It's like, I had that Twitter list and, and I just named it Black Women's Photography. So it's like, okay, this is what I'm looking for. I am one. And so I just didn't want to overcomplicate it. And then, again, with like, okay, I just like, what domain is available? I'm like, oh, this domain is available. Let's do it.
Wow.
And like, the Instagram handle was still there. Cool. Like, because as someone who works in social, I've wanted to try to have that branding and whatnot be consistent as possible. And yeah, really just have it. So for folks, like editors or whoever, if they search that, yes, they can find it, that they don't have to guess, like, what is this?
Right.
It's
Yeah,
pretty
there's no guessing.
straightforward. Like, what you see is what you get. And so,
Totally.
yeah.
That's what I love about
It's
it.
not the Acme Photographers Organization.
No,
Okay.
no,
Yeah.
right.
Something I'm a little bit curious about. This organization it's a community and a database of Black women and non-binary photographers. At what point did non-binary come into the picture? And that's not a pun, because again, it's obviously very specific groups, and there is overlap for sure as far as challenges and needs. But what brought these two groups together? What's the catalyst for that?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like, it's again the work that I was seeing. And so, I was following a few photographers who identify, as non binary. And, for me, it's like, okay, I don't want this to feel like they can't be a part of it, because yes, it says Black women photographers, and so for me, I'm just trying to, have it be a space where they can still feel, included, that they can still feel like they can, participate and take in the opportunities and be listed in the directory if they still choose. And so for me, it's just like trying to be as inclusive as possible. And also, for me, it's like, okay, I've also been following the work of, Daniela and her incredible organization, Woman Photograph. That was a part of the inspiration. And, they did that first. And so for me, it was like, okay, this is what they do. This is how they go about it. Let me try to, have that similar approach. And then also just have those one-on-one conversations with photographers, especially those who are non-binary, because I mean, for them, I'm sure it's even harder for them to feel, included or get opportunities. And so for me, it's like, okay, what can I do? And for me, it was really just listening because, I don't know their journeys and I don't know how hard it is. I'm not, obviously, like our backgrounds are entirely different, and the experiences are different, even though we are, this one group, like it's not a monolith. And so for me, it's like, I just try to do a lot of listening.
And when we talk about building community, I mean that's a tricky thing because I'm sure there are members of the group who really are just, they don't take part in anything necessarily, and there's others that are really involved. So can you speak a little bit about how you've gone about that? I mean, I noticed that on your site there's webinars and you're doing content, you post resources, but are there outside of the website itself, let's say, are there channels where people get together and chat and compare notes and complain and whatever you have to do that builds community?
Yeah, actually, on Slack, we do have a venting channel. That there is room for that because, we're humans, we need that. And so for me, yeah, like, there are some who are very active. I will see them, post in the community every day, in the Slack channel, I should say, or, if they post their work, they tag it or whatever the case may be, or use the hashtag hire Black women photographers often. And then there are others who, they can just, stick around for the webinars, the events, the workshops, or the trainings, or they come and go, because for me, it's like, that's totally okay. Like, I understand, like, I'm someone who has a million things going on. I have a full-time job, and then
Yeah, sounds like
and then I'm the
it.
DEI chair for MPPA co-chair. And then it's like, I have all these other things I'm doing. And then this in itself is a job, right? And so for me, it's like, I understand, like, Dawn, she just said she was a student. Like, I can't even imagine trying to, be a student in a pandemic. People have things going on. It's life, it's human nature. People will, take what they need, and then, of course, offer what they can when they can. And so for me, like, as long as I know that, okay, these resources are still being utilized, like people who need it will use it. Others who don't, they don't.
Yeah. Setting this up and getting people to join is one thing, but when you
Yeah.
have a website and you're organizing with countless people, talk about just yeah, did you have to hire any developers, any web developers? Do you have a staff now? How in this 1 year's time has it grown, and how do you handle all that?
No, I mean, I'm hoping to actually have a small team set up this month.
Hmm.
As for me, like this organization is very much operating like as a nonprofit. Everything that I'm providing, the workshops, the trainings, the portfolio reviews, all of that is free to the community members. And so for me, it's like, okay, I'm hoping to build this team of people who are just as passionate about this work, and so it will be volunteer based. And so if you're listening and want to, apply for that, please do reach out because I'm literally like going through the process right now of actually reading some applications of this form that I put out just a few weeks ago. Um,
How do you fund things? I mean, and we can talk about that a little bit too. I mean, are there grants involved at this point? I know there was a Kickstarter campaign. Are there dues? How does money flow in?
Okay, so there's no fee to join. No, there's no fee for the things that I'm offering, um, or just like the different things that come up, like the opportunities. And if you get hired through the directory, that is your opportunity. That's all yours. I'm not asking for any type of a fee or cut or whatever people call it. Like, no, that is your win. And for you to, I try to make it as simple as possible. Like, people can reach out to the photographers directly. I don't want to be a middleman. That's not what this is.
Hmm.
And there are things that, costs associated to this, like the website, the Zoom, the Slack. There are costs associated to this. I work a full-time job, and so I've just been using that, just my money for that, those kind of things. I do receive donations every maybe a few weeks or every couple months actually. I do receive some donations, and that goes back into like, okay, paying for these small operational things. Um, in the beginning, I had a COVID-19 relief fund, but that was geared towards the photographers who needed a financial relief during this pandemic. Um,
So
and
it's really
now
you.
it's
I
like
mean, it sounds to me like this is your baby. You're working hard
it
and you're
is
putting your money into
absolutely
it
my
and
baby.
your time.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, it's absolutely my baby.
and I mean, I know this is a tough question, but what do you foresee? I mean, sometimes things grow so fast that it's hard to
Yeah.
kind of know what's going to happen to them, and they may grow out of your control. But do you have a vision for what it might be as it goes forward yet, or is that just it's too early to talk about that?
No, that's it's something that I often think about because it has been picking up, lately. I mean, especially like if you think about the following, like the following alone on social. Like I started with 0 now. On Twitter, there's over 11,000 followers. On Instagram, there's over 20,000 followers. And I'm like, oh my god, like,
Hmm. Hmm.
so it's quickly growing. The reach is spreading. And so for me, it's like, okay, what can I do to actually make sure that this is like sustainable in the future, right? Like, as this continues to grow, I can't continue to be wearing all the hats. I have to delegate, I have to have that support system because it's like I'm literally getting flooded with, emails from people asking to, have access to the directory, to people who want to be, part of the community and be listed in the directory. And then of course the social channels, there's always, DMs on every platform inquiring about the community. And so and then just even the different things like the brand partnerships and the community, engagement online, and there's all these different hats and roles to play. And so it's like for me, like step one is to build the team. That way I can have some support and take some things off my plate. That way I don't feel like, oh my god, did I post on Twitter today? Like that's
Right.
something like someone else can do. Someone else can take over the social, please.
Sure. For sure.
Um,
Also, you have your
there's
own work. I mean, that's a question I
right,
wanted to get to, but I mean, things like this will just take over your life to a degree, and then
right.
how does it affect your own projects and your own photography?
Yeah, I mean that's something that a lot of people probably don't talk about when they're doing this kind of work. It's like yes, like if you're all in, you're truly all in, and that's how I've been. And so for me, it's like trying to have some kind of balance. Wasn't very good at that in the start.
Mhm.
I think I literally just did my first assignment in over a year with Reuters to document the Tulsa race massacre events in Tulsa, Oklahoma, for the anniversary. And that was literally like my first time picking up my camera. Well, maybe like my third time picking up my camera, but my first official assignment, since launching this in July 2020. Because like any time that I had, I've been pouring back into this community. And so for me, it's like, okay, trying to find that balance. And so it's like just establishing boundaries, like, cause I didn't really do that for myself. It's like, if I get a DM, if I get an email like midnight, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to answer. Like, I shouldn't answer. Like before I was answering at all times, like WhatsApp or whatever, like, and it may be, because obviously there's different time zones. And so, but like, it's funny because like Daniela of Woman Photograph, she would WhatsApp me. It's like, Polly, why are you responding to my email? Like she would like, she'd be like, Polly, have you rested? Polly, have you drank water? Like that's what she used to send me these reminders in the beginning because she knows obviously like how much it can consume you. And it's like you have to have some self-care. You have to prioritize yourself in this work.
Do you resent not using a camera as much, or is it balanced out by what you've gained by creating something out of nothing?
Yeah, for me, there is absolutely no resentment. Like it's truly like bigger than me right now. And so for me, it's like, I know that, okay, like me just putting down my camera for a year and if that's helping like all these women, like if it's making such an impact in this short amount of time, like it's truly worth it. And I also think about, for me, it's like, I'm still very much, I'm still very new to this industry. I'm very, young at this point. I think about folks who I admire and respect and when they first picked up their camera, they were in their 30s, like Ava DuVernay, and like, that I think she was in her 30s or 40s, like that quote. And I'm like, I got time. Like I can, like there's enough time for me to do both. And I'm just working on having that balance and able to like create those systems that I can actually like take some time back for myself. But yeah, I'm totally not worried
No,
about
but and also, I mean, just to kind of jump on that idea, I mean, you're also creating, contacts and networks for yourself, and there will be a time when you can put this down and focus on your work. And as you mentioned, you're young. This is,
because like
yeah,
no, sorry to cut you off. Yeah,
no,
absolutely. Because like even the job that I got for Reuters, like I didn't know that photo editor. I didn't know her until doing this work. Like because they did a few sessions of portfolio reviews for this community. I would not have that contact if it wasn't for doing this work. And her hiring me just based off of the fact that she respects what I'm doing.
Can you tell us about some of the successes for the past year? I mean, I know Don, getting a job at, I'm going to guess 18 or 19 for the New York Times. That's a pretty great success. But any other things you can point to?
Yeah. So, fortunately, like the database has been used by editors at the New York Times, as you mentioned, Washington Post, Bloomberg, Reuters, some local ones as well, like the Star Tribune, Texas Tribune as well. And then also just like ones I didn't even think of because I've never like reached out to them personally saying, hey, I have this director, like this Netflix star. She's one of the stars in Stranger Things. She used the directory her mom did to hire a photographer based out of Atlanta. American Airlines used the directory to hire a photographer based in Oakland. Like, again, I have no contacts with Netflix or an airline, and so that was pretty cool. And then again, like there's just other things where it's like outside of the hiring aspect, like all these different photo desk teams that have been willing to, graciously offer their time to do free portfolio reviews since the start. That has been amazing. And just all the different speakers who have, again, donated their time and their expertise to help this community and provide the wealth of knowledge that they had. And then there's just the other things that I'm, just very excited to announce. One of the things that was really important to me, again, was just trying to like connect those dots and having seeing just where people were at. A lot of photographers, their first time applying for a grant was after learning how to apply for a grant by the trainings and the workshops that I did. Like a lot of photographers never applied for a grant.
I can't tell you how many times we get,
questions, or I hear other photographers asking literally that question: how do I apply for a grant?
Yeah. And,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
yeah, for me, it was like, there's like a jobs and grants channel on the Slack. And it's like, I was realizing, like, it just dawned on me, like, I'm over here dropping these different grant opportunities. I'm like, how many folks actually ever applied for a grant or even know how? And I was like, myself included, like I've never applied for a grant until starting doing this work. And so that's one of the first events that I had was this director of the Alexa grants and then this program manager at IWMF. They, spoke to the community about what they look for as folks who look at grant applications all the time and award money. I mean, the Alexa grant awards like $20K to a photographer every year. And so, they offered, from where they're coming from, like what ways to stand out and just what your application include and you should not include. And then since then I've done like a few other sessions just as continuation on that, because there's just so much to unpack with that. But with that said, it's like, okay, with applying, that's one thing, and then receiving, that's another. But what happens if you don't get it? And it's really hard because it's very competitive. Any application is super competitive. And so for me, like with anything I do, I'm trying to have that like long-term impact. And so, I've been quietly just like fundraising and quietly just trying to like make these connections. And so I'm super excited to announce that I'm starting the first annual Black Women Photographers Grant Fund, where this year there'll be over 40,000 available in grants for photographers in this community. And so I'm very excited about that.
That's terrific.
Wonderful.
That's so
really
exciting.
Great. Yep.
Thank you.
Very good.
Great.
Very good. Okay, we are going to take a short break and we come back more with Polly Irungu and Dawn Banji. Please stay tuned.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of the B&H Photography Podcast. The best way to support the show is by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. For links to gear and more information on today's guests, check out the show notes in your podcast app or visit our homepage on the B&H Explorer website and join the B&H Photography Podcast Facebook group. And now, back to the show.
Okay, we are back. As mentioned, Dawn Banji is a photographer from Northern Virginia, and she was able to line up an assignment through the Black Women Photographers for none other than the New York Times, which is not too shabby. Dawn, welcome again to the show, and can you tell us how all of this came about with the assignment?
Yes, thank you so much for having me once again. So basically, I had just come home from work and I received an email from the New York Times, and I at first thought it was a scam because I thought it had gone to my spam folder, and I come home screaming and I'm like, Mom, I got this assignment from the New York Times. And she was like, you have to go, you have to do this. So I called in a few favors at work and had them cover me. But then it kind of all just was set into motion. And I had to drive down to Chesapeake, which was 3 hours away from where I actually live, because usually I'm away at college in Williamsburg at William and Mary, but that's where I'd signed up in the Black Women Photographers and said I was based there for most of the year. So I drove down and interviewed this wonderful woman named Edquina on a lot of things, and also took her portrait, which was very amazing. It was a very quick process because it was kind of overnight. I basically received the email on Thursday and had to drive down on Saturday.
Oh, so they assumed that you were already actually in that location based on where you said you were, where you registered.
Yes, I had completely forgot.
You did not say, oh, no, that's a little bit too far to me to drive. You just don't do that. Okay, good move. You're learning quickly.
Yes, I woke up at I woke up at 2 a.m. and I drove down.
That's okay. Yes, you do that.
And I'd actually called her to see the details in the editor being Alana. And I called her to see the details of the assignment. And I asked her where she had found me because it kind of seemed very random. And then she mentioned that she had just had a panel with Black women photographers. And that's where a light bulb clicked off in my head. And I was like, wow, okay, that's how this all was set into motion. And after the assignment was done, I was kind of in shock and emailed Polly. I was like, Polly, thank you so, so much. I'm just in immense shock, but also immense gratitude for all that this community has given me.
That's incredible.
Wow. Beautiful. That's great.
And did the editor speak at all specifically about, why she chose you or what she saw in your work that might apply for this? Or did you get any, feedback on that?
She honestly only mentioned the Black women photographers part, and that I was also one of the only photographers in Virginia or based anywhere in Virginia. So that's how she had chosen me. And as well, I haven't had the opportunity to build my portfolio as much since COVID. So I've had mainly been photographing my family and my brothers as well. So it was kind of, I did know that it may not have been directly based on my work because most of the work I've had so far was throughout high school and throughout like the majority of stuff I've done in my high school years, but not as experienced in my college years, I'd
That's
say.
great.
It's
That's great.
part of success is being in the right place at the right time, and you know,
Yeah.
I say that really really seriously, because sometimes that's what makes the difference between getting a kickstart and not getting a kickstart. And yeah, don't look at it as if yeah, I kind of got this one on a fluke. No, you didn't. Okay, and also you took the time to put your name into this organization to be in this locations. Okay, so you basically set it up.
Yeah, I do see that as well because again, a lot of things aligning to bring me to that one moment was very, I kind of thought of it in that way where a lot of things had to line up in order for
Hmm.
that coincidence to occur as well. So I'm really, really grateful for that opportunity, especially as a 19-year-old, because I never could have imagined that.
Right. That's incredible. And did the photo end up in print or was it online? How'd that work? And how'd you feel when you
It
saw it?
ended
Let's
up
go to that one.
It ended up, I think, in both because
Mhm.
my photography teacher sent me a picture because I didn't want to. I'm not a very big update person on Instagram, or I don't really post or plug myself, which is what you were previously talking about, like how a lot of photography is self promotion. So that's something I'm trying to work on. I'm really shy about trying to like promote myself, but my photography teacher sent it to me and was like, wow, I just saw you in print and I just got the New York Times. I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then I also had the link to the story and it was just very surreal. I would explain it as surreal. I just didn't think it was real for the longest time, even as my mom was sharing it on Facebook, and I was very, very shy about it. It was very, very surreal, I
I
think.
can't believe you didn't get the print though. I would have called anybody I knew in New York just to go buy a copy of the paper and have it sent down to me.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Very cool. Very
I would have
cool.
gone through the
Um,
phone book looking for strangers to talk to about it.
Totally. Yeah. Right. So maybe we jump over to one of the projects I see on your website, and it's called the David and Davis Project. Um,
Yes.
can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So those are my brothers, Davin and Davis. And they're both, Davin is 17 and Davis is 12 right now. And basically, it's just an amalgamation of a bunch of photos I took over my high school career of them, as well as during quarantine. Usually during I took photo freshman year. So we had a bunch of assignments and words and projects to do. And not a lot of my friends are willing to, understandably, not willing to like model 24/7 or have me take pictures of them, but I can force my brothers into modeling for a lot of my photo shoots. But it became much bigger than me when, after the entire George Floyd and Black Lives Matter, throughout like the extension of quarantine, I think it became of a larger impact in my life because
Hmm.
I didn't realize I was doing it consciously, but I think I was trying to hold on to my brothers and kind of show the world a different version of what is usually portrayed of like Black male youth, I think. And it was very close to my heart. And I guess I never considered it in the same way where when I was sitting on my work and I had to reflect on it during quarantine, I realized that I was just trying to portray my brothers in ways that kind of rebelled against what the world was trying to put onto them and these molds that the world was trying to fill with them. So I was trying to show the world who my brothers were, Davin and Davis, and trying to also commemorate them because in some ways, in the lives lost during last May and throughout the extension of last year as well as this year, I kind of saw the faces of my family as well as my brothers. So it was in a way trying to commemorate them, but also show the world a different narrative.
That's great.
Yeah.
And from the perspective of somebody who's got a few years on you, I can kind of flash forward and envision this is like a lifelong project. Something you can continue working on as they age and as you grow and as your relationships build. Can I ask a real simple question though? What do you use for your gear? What do you? It seems like you have a range of cameras and use different formats. What do you like?
I either use what I used to use mostly was my Nikon D5300 for digital work, but for the majority of my portraits now, I usually use my Mamiya RB67. After buying it,
RB67. Wow. Okay.
yes, RB67. Yeah, it was very. I had to find a camera that was accessible to me once again because a lot of the photography I was seeing, the RZ67, I would have loved, but it was very expensive, and having to buy things for myself, I had to find kind of the closest option to that. And I really, really like my RB67, but
Oh, there are a lot of people that absolutely love that camera because also it's a good camera and it's mechanical and it won't fail
yeah.
on you. I know a lot of people that still use them.
Yeah, I really enjoy it because I remember in photo, I previously really hated film because we started off with film in photography. And it's because I didn't know or understand how to work with it. But as soon as I had digital, I think I felt there was something missing. So I switched over to medium format. And
Mm.
it was a big learning curve, but it was also really, really helpful to me because it helped me slow down as a photographer. And a lot of the things I was doing in digital was like rushing through the process and
Hmm.
wasn't really thinking about my work. And that's just what, like, based on my character as an individual, I like to rush through things a lot. So film forced me to slow down and think about the images and the framing and the composition. So I really,
Wh-
really enjoy.
When you shot for the Times, did you use film or digital? What did you shoot for that assignment?
Since it was such a quick turnaround, I had to take the photos at 8 and have them in by 12. I had to use digital.
That's what I was questioning because you don't
Yeah.
always have the luxury of time when you're working on a project. And again, that's what you have to do. Okay, I was just curious to know if you had an option or not.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And Don, what would you say? I mean, it may be too soon or too big of a question, but what would you say you learned from that assignment?
One of the biggest things I learned, I think, was the value of like vulnerability of being in someone's home. I don't even know how to explain it that well,
Hmm.
but to put it into words, I'd always been looking at photographers like Gordon Parks and how they entered people's homes and documented their lives and briefly had interactions with people and had opportunities to take their portraits. And I always looked at them with awe because it's kind of very personal to be in someone's home. So when I went to Edquina's home in Chesapeake, it was such a huge privilege to take her portrait and to get to know her. Even in those few, we had an hour to get to know each other.
Hmm.
And it was very early morning, but seeing where she had grown up and seeing the portraits of her grandparents as well, and hearing her experience as a Black woman in the professional world, it was just very, I think, inimitable in a way where I wouldn't have gotten that if, and it's very hard with COVID as well. That's such a huge privilege because,
Hmm.
yes, I went masked, but it was such a huge privilege to be able to step into someone's home and to have her let me do that. I think that was one of the biggest things I learned, like the value of having such raw, intimate connections with the subject and how that can really make the image.
Right. Well, and also the trust that must come, between both of you. I mean, the back and forth trust
Yeah.
and to work with that. That's wonderful.
And then you also have another issue that when you're working in the situations like that, first you have to make a connection with the person you're there to photograph
Hmm.
because that's part of the success of the photograph is having the trust of this person. And at the same time, you're busy looking around trying to figure out, okay, what would make a good photograph without being too disruptive here. So you're multitasking mentally. You're connecting with a person you've never met before. You're in a place you've never been, and you're trying to create a single image that will sum up the story and be a good picture. So
Hmm.
that I think is also part of the magic of freelancing and doing these little things where you approach these situations with preconceptions. We all do. Okay, this is what it's going to look like, and it never looks like what you think it's going to look like, and who the person is.
Exactly.
And you get there, and you're literally living in the moment, and you're saying, okay, here I am. This is what's happening. How am I going to make this work and still walk out the door and be friends with this person? So,
Hmm.
congratulations that you passed the test.
Thank you so much.
Clearly, that's great. I kind of want to bring up a couple issues, and I mentioned them in the notes to the show. Um, So both of you guys are quite young. Let's be real, particularly with Dawn. I mean, how do you guys see a new generation of photography? How does Black women photographers want to play into that? Because it's not simply just about gender and race. It seems to me that it's also about generation. I mean, this is a generation of folks who are coming up through some very radical times right now, some changing times, and it's going to affect everything we do going forward. Do you feel, the both of you, a generational connection, a community in that sense? And is there ways that comes out in your work and even in Black women photographers? Do you feel that there's kind of a youthful movement involved? That
I think one of the biggest parts of Black women photographers as a youth driven movement, but as well like such an inclusive movement, I think it's bringing Black women photographers and non-binary photographers into the um, participant and actively giving us a role in the photography world, which was one of the most empowering parts of this community. Because as an immigrant from Uganda, once again, coming into the American photography movement, because I didn't really interact with photography apart from either in two ways mostly. My dad really, really enjoyed taking photos of us. And that was an interesting one because it was kind of being observed from it was in a way kind of experiencing photography on a very intimate level. But in other ways, in Uganda, there were a lot of photographers that came from different parts of the world to kind of portray the poverty in Uganda. So those were the two ways I interacted with photography, and I never ever saw myself being a part of it. I kind of saw myself as being on the outskirts of it, observing it, but not really, or being in it, but not really engaging with the photography or engaging with the process. So I think one of the biggest parts that where Black women photographers play such a huge role is where it kind of brings um, people from the observer into, I guess, the participant, because it kind of brought me from the alienated outskirts of observing people doing all of this, but showing me instead that I can actually participate in photography. I can be a photographer. I can make images that bring impact. So I think it's empowering people through showing them that these things are possible and that the position isn't always on the outskirts of society or the outskirts of the art world, but rather in it, I would say, if that made any sense.
no, it did. It did. Between the both of us, we'll figure that out somehow. But no, it did make sense. And you brought up the issue of immigration also, because both yourself and Polly immigrated to the States here, and you know in Polly's bio, there's the note that she bought her first camera with the money she earned at a part-time job at McDonald's. I mean, to me, this is just incredible. I mean, these are the kind of stories that the quote unquote the American success story and all that kind of stuff. But you know, I see you guys as kind of blasting out of the way some of the old models and pushing you guys to the fore, and that comes not only with a sense of self, but also with the fire of youth, and I really appreciate that. And I just wonder if you guys feel, that this is also part of your project, just kind of making changes and what needs to be changed.
Yeah, I mean, well, Don, you said it best. But I think for me, it's like, I mean, but for me, it's like my mom, she told me that you have to be your own advocate. No one can really advocate for yourself. No one will know what you want or need. You have to be able to, speak up for yourself. And watching her, navigate uh, one of the systems in America, as she was an immigrant. She was the firstborn of 12. And so she was really the one who paved the way for just even my other extended family to be here, and for myself for what I'm doing now. And so for me, it's like, if I'm going to do something, like I'm going to be very loud and vocal about it. I'm going to take up space, and that took some time to learn, because getting the confidence to do that took some time. But for me, it's like I see so many of these members that is being so brilliant about the ways that they promote themselves and their work and the issues that they believe in, and just they really do take up space. Like, we have a right to be at the table in a sense, like we should have a seat at the table. And for me, part of like why I was doing this because I didn't feel like I even had a seat, and so now it's like let me build this table and invite all these people to take up these seats. And again, it's like because like you said, we are like this like next wave in a sense of image makers, and I'm witnessing that. I'm witnessing people's growth in real time. I'm witnessing them do this work that make this impact in real time, and it's just it's so like mind-boggling. It's like sometimes I have to take a step back.
It feels so of the moment, and like you said, you're watching this all in real time. But was there a moment in the past year where you said to yourself, "Wow, this is what I wanted to do, and here it is"?
Oh man, that's such a great question. I mean, for me, it's like there's been like several moments. Like, I mean, like when Don emailed me, like that was like a moment in itself. I was like, oh my God, like, because I have no idea unless they tell me. And so like for me, it's like I just hope it's working, right? And so when she emailed me, I was almost like close to tears because I was like, I could feel like the gratitude, like, coming out of the email, and I just like, oh my God. So for me, it's like, when photographers, as just like the simple thank yous that they say about like when they took a class or after an event or they got hired or just even when they're sharing their work, because a lot of photographers do have anxiety about posting their work and the response that it may receive. And so just seeing that photographers have the confidence in doing that or trying a
That's a great
different
point.
or just trying a different niche. And so for me, it's like, all these different things, for me, there's just so many moments that it's really hard to, pin it down. And
Okay, that is the wrap of another fine show, if I may say so myself. Thank you so much to Polly Irungu and Dawn Banji for being with us today. Polly, again, could you tell us about the $40,000 grant money and where people can check it out to find out if they are eligible?
yes, I'm so excited to announce the first annual Black Women Photographers Grant Fund. There will be over 40,000 available in grant funding. 40,000 thanks to Nikon USA, and then additional 10,000 in gear that will be available as well. And then thanks to Wells Elm for a grant that we will be partnering with them for 5,000 for photographers for the personal project, and an additional 1,200 grand thanks to Flickr. So I'm very excited, and they can look up that information at blackwomenphotographers.com.
And that'll also be on our show notes. So if you didn't catch that, just check out the show notes and that information will be there. Also, Polly, if people want to check out more of your work, where can they go to?
Yeah, it's just my first and last name. So Polly Irungu, and that is IRUNGU.com, and at Polly Irungu on any social platform.
There you go. And again, that will be in the show notes also. And Dawn, people want to check up on your work. Where can they go to?
They can go. My website is also my first and last name, and it's Dawn Banji, and the last name is Bangi.
Okay.
And my Instagram handle is my last name, Bangio.d. So Bangio.d.
Okay. And again, all of that will be on the show notes in correct order, I might add. So again, check all that out. And again, the work is from Polly and Dawn is absolutely wonderful. And the organization is terrific as well. And again, thank you to both of you for joining us today on the show. It was a pleasure having both of you and listening to everything you have to say. It was kind of refreshing, if I may say so myself. Now, if you enjoy listening to the B&H Photography Podcast, you can let our boss know how much you love us by subscribing to the show. All you have to do is go over to Spotify or wherever you snag your favorite podcast and type in B&H Photography Podcast, hit enter, and boom, you are part of the family. And if you are already a subscriber, leave a nice comment if you have a moment. The boss loves reading this stuff too. You could also find us on the B&H Explorer website and on the B&H Photography Podcast Facebook group page. My name is Alan White, and on behalf of John Harris and Jason Tables, thank you oh so much for tuning in today.